Hello again. Talked before about this great book, Evangelism in the Early Church. We've publicized it as essential Christian reading in the Basic Christian Library. Michael Green, and in chapter 1 of Evangelism in the Early Church, Green addresses the issue of why the time of Augustus Caesar was the perfect time for the Christ to be sent into the world. Green reasons this way: probably no period in the history of the world was better suited to receive the infant church than the 1st century AD, when under an empire which was literally worldwide, the scope for the spread and understanding of the faith was enormous. The interplay of Greek, Roman, and Jewish elements in this preparatio evangelica, Latin for preparation for the gospel, is well known, but is worth looking at afresh if this study is to be put in its proper perspective. In the earliest account we have of the spread of Christianity, the Acts of the Apostles, the debt owed to Greece, Rome, and Jewry is plain on almost every page. By the 2nd century, Christians were becoming more reflective and self-conscious about the background into which the church was launched, and began to argue that it was a divine providence which had prepared the world for the advent of Christianity. Not all their arguments are of equal value, but that the 1st century did provide invaluable pathways for the spread of the gospel, it is idle to deny. First, he deals with the Roman peace, the Pax Romana. The first and foremost of these preparations was the Pax Romana. The spread of Christianity would have been inconceivable had Jesus been born half a century earlier. As it was, the new faith entered the world at a time of peace unparalleled in history. The whole known world was for the first time under the effective control of one power, Rome. Octavius' supremacy, that is Augustus Caesar, that was a title. Octavius was his actual name, or Octavian. Octavius' supremacy was now undisputed. The weary nations turned in gratitude to their deliverer from a century of war and acclaimed him with the utmost sincerity as Savior of the world. The poets Virgil and Horace proclaimed the beginning of a new era, the return of the golden age of Saturn, who was the original god of the Romans. For the first time for 2 centuries, the temple of Janus had its doors closed as a sign of peace. Augustus, that is Octavian, maintained this peace by means of the army. This was, broadly speaking, stationed around the boundaries of the empire so that, with the frontiers firmly garrisoned, citizens could sleep in peace. Gaul had been conquered by Julius Caesar, Asia Minor by Pompey, and Augustus took pains to advance frontiers to the Rhine and Danube. These were picketed by legions and patrolled by naval detachments. In the east, he gained diplomatic successes against the Parthians, whom for geographical and cultural reasons it would have been impracticable to include within the empire, and established the frontier on the Euphrates. All within that area was pacified and Romanized. There was no fear of civil strife arising again, because, by an astute division of territory between himself and the Senate, Augustus ensured that he would keep control of all those provinces which needed a military presence. By the time of his death, only a single legion was to be found in a senatorial province, that in Africa. Under such circumstances, internal and external peace seemed assured. Tacitus makes no exaggeration when he reports sensible men as saying the empire was hedged in by sea, ocean, or long rivers throughout. Legions, fleets, provinces, all was fitly linked together. Augustus had succeeded in creating a corporate unity of the whole of the civilized world. The development of a road system went on apace. Augustus took special interest in roads and made their upkeep an imperial responsibility administered by a board of senior senators. The reason for this is obvious enough. It not only enabled speedy movement of troops to take place for police activity or military operations, but facilitated the swift transmission of news through the official post, the cursus publicus, which Augustus set up. A veritable network of roads radiated out from the Golden Milestone in Rome to all parts of the empire, and they were kept in good repair. This road system had other great advantages, notably the encouragement of trade and the fostering of travel and social intercourse between different nationalities of the empire, thus forging an increasingly homogeneous civilization into the Mediterranean world. The possibilities of spreading the gospel afforded by this swift and safe method of travel were fully exploited by the early Christians, and both the New Testament and the literature of the 2nd century simply take for granted journeys of enormous length which would scarcely have been possible after the fall of the empire until modern times. One oft-quoted inscription found at Hierapolis in Asia Minor on the tomb of a merchant records that he traveled to Rome no fewer than 72 times. He needed no passport anywhere in the empire. Provided he did not bring merchandise with him, he would have to pay no customs duty, though he was liable to pay a small tax for using the road. It is clear from the pages of the Acts that Christians made the maximum use of the Roman road system, and that it formed an unconscious directive to their evangelism. What a merchant could do for financial advantage, a Christian could do in the cause of the gospel. So that's the advantages of the Roman culture in the days that Christ and the apostles worked in the world. Next time, Greek culture. I'll put a link into the worship of Isis, who at that time was the supreme goddess of the Roman Empire, sometimes hidden behind other names, but specifically an expert on why Isis was worshipped so universally in those days.